So we left off on page Ches, bottom of the page, last two words on the page. We were talking about the difference between hiskashrus and dveikus. And we were saying that dveikus is when two things that are joined together. For example, oir and ma'ir, or the neshama, the way it's above, is davuk and elakus. We brought the Lashon and Tanya about the tzaddik, that when he's serving Hashem above, he's in a state of dveikus and elakus. Whereas hiskashrus is talking about when the neshama is down here below, then it has a level of hiskashrus because it is descended and like separated from the Oid Ein Sof, and it's being bound together. Based on this, we started explaining the idea of that there's the level of the neshama that's down here is the level of dark, and it's telling and it's contrasting with the level of Benois Yerushalayim. The neshama, the way it's above, is called the daughters of Yerushalayim because it has over there a state of Yerushalayim. Still in all, we say even though down here it's a level of dark because it's only hiskashrus, it's not dveikus. Still in all, Venova, still in all, it's beautiful. So, we started speaking about that Benois Yerushalayim is going on the neshamas the way it is above in Gan Eden, and even higher than that, not just the neshamas the way they are in Gan Eden, but the way they are in their shoyrish above, the way they are in Malchus, the Atzilus. That's where it's called Benois Yerushalayim. So the mimer is going to continue, as I said, two words from the end of the page on page Ches. Because higher than Sfiras HaMalchos, over there, it's not even applicable, the term Benois Yerushalayim, and the whole idea of love and awe of Hashem doesn't apply. The love and awe of Hashem doesn't apply. There's no level over there of someone that loves and someone that has awe, because the whole idea that love and awe is predicated on, is premised on, is that there is I that loves something or someone else, I that fears or is in awe of someone else. There is only an I beginning from Malchus Datzilus onward. Higher than Malchus Datzilus, there is no I. It's all totally miyuchad v'alakus. The rak b'chinas ha-malchus, she b'chinas ha-gilush b'atzilus, only the level of malchus. That's a level of revelation in atzilus. B'chinas yesh netzal, a level of an emanated yesh. Yet l'chein shayach sham inyan hayira. Therefore, the idea of awe applies. In other words, he's using the term yesh netzal because there's a concept of yesh nivra. Yesh nivra is a created yesh, something that's already separated from the Eibishter. It's already created to be a separate entity. As opposed to Natzilus, there's no nivroim yet Natzilus. Nivroim begin in the world of Bria. But there's still an existence, a yesh, which we're calling a netzal. It's something that emanated and came out from the Eibishter. But it's already a Metzias, and therefore, since it's already a Metzias, so it's applicable to say over there a level of love, a level of awe, and therefore we have the idea of neshama over there, Benois Yerushalayim, that serve Hashem with love and awe. This is what it says: I am dark, but I am beautiful. Benois Yerushalayim. Hainu shaneshama shalamato imeres alaneshama shaldilamaylo. The neshama down here below tells the neshamas above. The krois of Bnei Yerushalayim, the neshamas above are called the daughters of Yerushalayim. Shchoirani, I am dark. B'chinas shacharus v'is almas ha'or. Down here below, the neshamas is in a state of darkness, in a state where the light is concealed. Yosef b'chinas pirud, since it's in a way of separation, upgiris and torn away, from the very essence of Hashem. Not only is it torn away from the very essence of Hashem, but even it's torn away to a certain degree, then the neshamas waits above. It's in a state of being torn away from Bnei Yerushalayim. That we said yesterday, Yerushalayim is a convergence of two words and two names for Hamaria, Yira Shalom, which means a complete Yira. She'eina b'chinas shleimus ha'yira, because the neshama down here below is not in a state of a perfect and complete awe of Hashem. How come? So we go back to that same part of Tanya that we quoted before. Even if he's a complete tzaddik, we will not reach the level of his cleaving to the Eibishter with awe and love, because the body cannot handle that great love and awe of Hashem that the neshama above takes. There was, I think, a story, with Reb Zusha Annapoller, that he once davened to the Eibishter very, very hard that he should be able to experience the Yira or the Ava Yira, the Malachim experience above. And after a lot of beseeching, Reb Zusha Annapol's request was granted, and he started trembling so hard that he realized this is not going to work out good in the end, and he davened to the Eibishter to take this away from him. But the physical body cannot contain such a powerful love the way the neshama is above, or such a powerful awe the way the neshama is above. Since we know that the neshama is found and it exists and lives in the body, so that itself is an indication. It's understood that the neshama, the way it's down here, is very far from perfect awe. Not only is it very far from perfect awe, you say them as even more so, that finds itself in a parched and a thirsty land without water. What does that mean? Where does it express itself? Because heaven forbid, it could also transgress a idea of a mitzvah asay, or something you're supposed to get up and do. It could even transgress on something they're supposed to sit back and not do. Yet, even though the neshama down here is so far, as we just now described, became still in all. I'm still, despite the fact that I'm dark, I'm still beautiful. Only and specifically while being down here below is in an ultimate state of beauty. Because the concealments and the coverings are to be found down here below. Neshama is awakened and inspired with a great thirst for godliness, with a flaming, fiery love. The ultimate beauty of love is when it's in a way of a powerful, flaming fire of thirsting love for Hashem. As opposed to when the neshama is above, that when the neshama is above, there's no concealments, no coverings. Therefore, it's not in a state of thirsting for God. It's like a child being away from home. Now, summer, a lot of children went to camp. They a lot of times miss their parents, they miss their family, they miss being home. That is felt only when they're away. But when they're at home, they don't have that powerful yearning and thirsting for their family and so on. Down here below, that it's only a state of iskashus, it's not vakus, it's very far away. It's not the ultimate beauty that it does not have when it is above, when it is in the Olam Yisrael. Any questions before we go on to top of page U? Okay, page Yud, Ois Gimel, top of the page. So now the Rebbe is going to ask, what we just now explained makes sense by love. Love, the excitement of the love, the passion of the love, absence makes the heart grow fonder. The more distant it is, the more powerful the love is. On the other hand, Chassidus contrasts this always with awe. Awe is not the further away you are you in greater awe? Just the opposite. The closer you are in the presence of whatever you're fearing or whatever you're in awe of, that more powerful the emotion of awe is.
Like it says, "Vayanu, vayanu, vayamdu merachok."
Because vayamdu merachok. In other
Because
words,
of the
fear
yira.
made them jump backwards.
Yeah.
But in general, fear is something that's a stronger feeling only when you're closer to it. So when it comes to love, I understand what we gain, the hiskashrus, that even though hiskashrus is a lower thing than dveikus, but it's a much more powerful love. When it comes to awe, when it comes to fear, the neshama comes down here. It's at a distance from the Eibishter. If it's at a distance from the Eibishter, so then the fear is should be not so powerful. So what does it gain? How could you say Vinava that it's more beautiful? Seemingly, when it comes to the fear, it's missing the beauty. This I've already given you the whole entire point of the next ice. Ice gim. Yeah, we need to understand the advantage that occurs in the neshama. When it descends down here below, because of the concealments and coverings, the neshama is awakened and inspired to have a thirst and a love like a flaming fire. Is only applicable in the topic and the idea of love, that the further you are, the greater the love is. But when it comes to awe, when it comes to fear, that is so much higher when the neshama is above. The Rebbe is now going to explain why is that so. Why fear do we need to have to be closer for one to have more fear? He says, the awe comes out of a recognition and a feeling of the exaltedness and the height and the elevation of the one who I'm in awe of. Only through that the person becomes inspired to have awe. And this is specifically when the neshama is above. The since there's the idea of godly revelations over there. So therefore, there's an appreciation, there's a feeling, there's an awareness of how exalted, how high, how uplifted the Eibishter is. And therefore, as a result of that, through that occurs the awe. As opposed to when the neshama is down there below, that there's no revelations of godliness. Therefore, there's no recognition of the exaltedness of Hashem. And if there's no recognition of the exaltedness of Hashem, then there's also not going to be the ultimate or the perfect or the greater form of awe of Hashem. In addition to this, the Rebbe continues on line 12. When it comes to love, it's sufficient if we have a comprehension and we grasp that which intellectually we're grasping, that which we are loving, that which we are trying to love. When a person understands and comprehends that the matter, whatever this thing is good for him, that's the basis of everything, of every type of love. The basis of any type of love is that that thing is good for him, makes him feel good, whatever, but it's something good, and therefore I'm attracted to it. I have a love for it. So the love is based on understanding of the good of a particular thing. Then he's inspired, then he's awakened to love that particular thing. Why is that so? It's because by nature, a person is drawn to a matter that could bring him benefit. Therefore, when he comprehends that godliness is good, so then he's inspired to have love. That's the nature. The nature of attraction is that a person by nature is attracted to something that's beneficial, that feels good, etc. But when it comes to fear, when it comes to awe, the idea of comprehension alone is insufficient. There has to be a recognition, and there needs to be a bond in and with the one who he is fearful of. Why does there have to be a recognition, which is more than just understanding? Why does there have to be a connection, a bond with that who he is in awe of? Because Yira's idea of bittul, that's the opposite of a person's existence. Here we're talking about yira in the sense of being bottled to someone greater. We're not talking about a trembling fear that a person is scared of from being hit by a car or whatever. We're talking here about a bittul for something that's greater than it. Love is natural. Love, the natural state of a person is to love something that's beneficial. Actually, a result of the person's ego. That's why usually we speak about yesh mishayev, not so much about yesh mishayare. So it's an ego thing. Love has to do with a person's ego. Therefore, it's natural to love. So as long as he understands, he will naturally be attracted to something that he understands that's good. Yira that we're talking about over here, the yira of avodah is bittul. Bittul is an unnatural state for a person. A person doesn't want to be bittul. Therefore, because of that, Lachain, line 21, Loy mas because it's insufficient to just understand and comprehend how the Eibishter is so awesome and great and exalted and so on. There has to be specifically a recognition in Hashem and His greatness, and a connection, a bond with Hashem and His greatness. And to reach that, one needs to have effort and toil. Chazal, like the expression of Chazal, woe to the flesh that did not toil in awe. A very interesting thing. When it talks about love, the Chazal don't use the term toiling. All of a sudden, when it comes to awe, he uses the term toiling. As opposed to love, it only comes through a level of understanding and comprehension. Top of page Yud, there is not such a great need for toil. There is a certain amount of toil to be able to understand and comprehend something that's outside of our realm. We need a toil in understanding the Eibishter. But once that understanding has been reached, so then the result of that will be a love for Hashem, not so much a need for toil. Whereas when it comes to Yira, since Yira goes against the very nature of a person, which is to be batal, therefore one needs to toil to not just understand Hashem's awesomeness, but also to connect with it, to bond with it to such a degree that the person should experience a bittul because of Hashem's awesomeness. Based on this, the Rebbe says on the top of page Yud Aleph, line 1, moving from this understood. The primary idea of awe applies when the neshama is above. Why? Because of this connection that he has with the Eibishter. The kivin sheyasham in agiluyim, since in the spiritual realms there is all types of godly revelations. So then what happens is the recognition and the bond with godliness. Through this is accomplished the idea of awe and fear. As opposed to when the neshama is down here below. Change on Bechinas Agiluyim. There's no revelations of godliness down here below. That through that revelations, the person will come to recognition and a bond. There are no revelations through which you should get there. Cain, how can he come to the level of awe? So therefore, we have to understand again about Shchoida. Therefore, we have to understand the idea that we say, despite the fact that I'm dark, I'm still beautiful when it comes to awe. The shetachos that the ultimate beauty of awe is specifically down here below. So the Rebbe is going to ask on himself, who says that this beauty is referring to awe? Maybe it's just concerning the love. The love is so much greater when it's down here below, because then you have the great, thirsting, flaming, fiery love for Hashem. And that is how it is more beautiful than the B'nai Yerushalayim, than the Neshama, the way it's above. But who says that applies also concerning awe? Maybe when it comes to awe, there is no advantage and there's no betterness of the neshama down here below having awe of Hashem, having yirah of Hashem, versus the neshama the way it's above. So the Rebbe says that that's not the case. So he says at the end of line 9, we're forced to say that the idea of beauty has to be not just concerning love, also concerning awe. Why do we have to say that the neshama is beautiful down here, despite the fact that it's iskashus, despite the fact that it's so far, and it's even concerning awe? We explained before that the neshama is when it's connected with the Eibishter down here below, it's called a bond. That's why the Zohar says, there are 3 bonds that the Yidden connect with the Eibishter via duan, it's known. So what if it's a bond? So he says it's known, an existing knot, an existing bond, it's when one knot is on top of another knot. Then it's considered a kesher shel chayama. Then in Hilchos Shabbos, the person is considered liable for a carbon chatas if he did it by mistake. But if he only ties it with one tie, so then it's not considered a kesher shel chayama. So the same thing, by the person down here below, the iskashrus is not just enough if he has the iskashrus of love. He needs to have also another iskashrus. These are the 2 matters and 2 components, the iskashrus of love and awe. Then it's 2 ksharim, and then since it's 2 knots, so therefore, or 2 bonds, or 2 being tied, so therefore it will remain. But Tanya, like it's explained in Tanya, that we know Ava v'yira, love and awe, in the Lashon HaZoyar is likened to wings. When it describes in the Nevuos of Cheskel, for example, that the Malachim had wings. What do the wings mean? Wings are the love and awe that the Malachim have. And the same thing, our Torah mitzvahs. Also, the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, has wings to fly upward. But to have wings, it needs to have 2 types of wings. Or, but Tanya, like to explain in Tanya, the Kamosha, just like a bird. If it were to have only 1 wing, it couldn't fly. It needs to have 2 wings to be able to fly. So too, it cannot be the flying upwards. That Torah mitzvahs nayid becomes flies upwards and joins with Hashem. Only through the 2 matters of awe of Hashem and love of Hashem. Therefore, getting back to understanding our pasuk, what is the beauty of the idea of awe that we find specifically down here? Seemingly, the awe when the neshama is above is in a much higher level of awe than the neshama's awe the way it is down here below. Any questions? So, just to give you a little bit of a of a foretaste of what we're going to be learned tomorrow, that the truth is that in the manner and the degree of bittul, there's much more bittul. The person places themselves much more aside when they are down here in this world. So the bittul factor of the awe, and he's going to make a difference between the muhusa bittul and the strength of the bittul. We'll talk about it tomorrow. But the actual, how much the person needs to put aside themselves is much stronger down here below. And that is the beauty of the awe down here below over the awe of the neshama, the year of the neshama